Well, good morning. I am delighted to be here today, and we're going to talk about why you do what you do. And my hope is that we can make this interactive. I wouldn't be a trainer if I didn't have some goals and objectives, so let's talk a little bit about what we're going to be talking about. One of the first things we're going to do is really look at what are some communication realities and how do we work with that. Our second piece is to look at what are your behavioral tendencies and how do they affect communication. Based on who you are, you're going to communicate differently. And last but not least, can we have some fun? Okay. I love to use quotes, and one of my favorite people to quote is Mark Twain, who says, if you don't laugh at yourself, you miss out on a lot of good humor. So my hope is that we can do that. Does that work? Okay, let's talk about our first communication reality. When we talk about communication, here's the bad news. You cannot not communicate. And what I mean by that is anytime there's contact, communication occurs. I was called into an organization, and they said, oh, Dr. Mimi, we have got problems. We have people in our staff, they are just not communicating. And I said, give me an example. And they said, oh, we have one person who walks 3 sides of a square to go to the copy machine so as to avoid the other person. Were they communicating? Yeah. Because whenever contact occurs, communication occurs as well. What everybody else was watching was all that stuff. That's my technical term. So being aware of the fact that no matter what you do, you're always communicating. Let's talk for a minute about being here. We have a lot of mind chatter. As I walked in the room, some of you were going, I wonder who she is. Oh, I know who she is. Have you heard her before? What are we doing? By the way, I truly am a licensed psychologist. Let me be honest with you. If you have those voices in your head, that's okay. All right? If you don't know who they are, then let's talk, all right? As we start to do that. When we talk about meanings, meanings are in people and not in words. And that's particularly troublesome in today's email-dependent world because the opportunity for miscommunication is so great. We look at words and we all come back with our own meaning. Let me give you a quick sentence on there. Okay. Think about what this word means, what the sentence means, okay? And I'm going to ask you to read it out loud with me, each time putting the emphasis on a different word. And I'm going to have it on the screen so that you can follow along. Ready? Starting with I. Let's put the emphasis on I. I never told Jerry Mimi was stupid. 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 And last but not least, I never told Jerry Mimi was stupid. What happened? Yeah, if we put the emphasis on a different syllable, we have a whole different meaning. True? As we start to do it. Be aware of that as you write your emails. Before you push that send button, read it, and think about how it's going to be received and how people are going to really interpret it. Because here's another issue. 70 to 90% of communication is screened out or changed by the who? Receiver. So the opportunity for miscommunication is so great. A lot of times people will say to me, why do you give it handouts, put it on the screen and say it out loud? Why do you think I do it? Then reinforce it. I always say I'm just trying to improve my odds. Studies have shown you have to receive information 8 times in 3 different ways to own it. So a lot of times you probably have said to your people, but I told you. Anybody ever said that? Yeah, and you did. No question about it. And the opportunity for miscommunication is that great. So as we start to talk about this, when communications are misunderstood, conflict arises. And conflict is tough, and there's all sorts of conflict. The 4 major types is, number 1 is conflict between ideas. Is that bad? No, that's a good conflict. We like to have different ideas. We want to hear different things. That's an important piece. Then we have conflict between priorities. That's harder. Conflict between resources, even more so. By the way, you have found is if there's too many resources and there's a scarcity of resources, there's conflict. The goal is to have just the right amount. And then the last conflict is conflict between personalities. those personality conflicts. They're hard. Why do you think they're hard? Yeah, it's who we are. John Powell wrote a book called Why Am I Afraid to Tell You Who I Am? And the answer was, if I tell you who I am and you don't like it, that's all I have. So when we talk about personalities, that's us. And that's what makes it much more difficult. When we talk about who we are in our environment, there's our core, and that's our genetic traits. And they don't change unless there's what we call significant emotional experiences. That's the psychological term. I think about it in terms of myself. You know, I keep saying, if I could just grow 3 more inches, okay, I'd be the right weight. So I've been working really hard on growing those 3 inches. What's the chances? Ain't gonna happen, right? So there's those genetic things that we don't have a lot of control over. Then we have our core personality, and many of you maybe have taken the Myers-Briggs and different personality profiles on that. And our personality doesn't change. And that I liken that to kind of climate in the real world. And then there's behaviors, and that's our externals. And those are our surface traits. And do we have control over them? Yeah, some. Yeah, we do. So as we go by, we have more and more control. Let's talk a little bit about successful people. Because successful people understand their behavior and how that behavior affects others. Here's a big one. Successful people understand their reactions to people. Okay, can we talk? You know, and I know. There's some people that you meet, and it just works, right? It feels good. There are others, my technical term is the uh-oh factor. Uh-oh, I got to work with them. Uh-oh, I got to deal with them. Uh-oh, I've got to participate with them. True? Okay? And if you know that, you can work with it. You can make it work. Successful people maximize what they do well and really build on that. What are your strengths and how can you make that really work? Successful people have a positive attitude about themselves. They're not negative Nellies. They feel good about who they are. And I oftentimes say, if you don't feel good about who you are, why should somebody else? So as we talk about success, it's really feeling good about who you are. And last but not least, successful people know how to adapt their behavior. One size, particularly in today's world, does not fit all. You know, we're brought up with the golden rule which says, do unto others as we would like done unto ourselves. And my bias is that we're going to do the platinum rule, which is do unto others as they would like done unto them. Because we can't treat everybody exactly the same because people are different. True? True. So when we talk about successful people, they adapt their behavior. And why it's hard is because people have different goals, they have different fears, they have different motivations, they have different ways of seeing the world. We can all have the same stimulus and walk away with very different responses. Let me give you an example. Okay? Look at what's on the screen. And I have a hard time seeing you because of the light, but help me for a second. How many of you see the word me? I'm going to try to get over here. Okay. How many of you see the word you? Okay. How many of you just see blobs of brown? Okay. We'll talk later. We'll get that. Okay? On there. That's the reality. We can all have the same stimulus, but walk away with very different responses. What we see first and what we see second, again, is very, very different. By the way, for those of you that are still working on, here's the you. Y-O-U. Okay, and here's the me. Got it? As we start to do that. We're going to talk a little bit about the DISC model, and this is one of the tools that I use within organizations. And today I'm going to give you just a taste of DISC. And by the way, after the program, we're going to be at a table, and if you will give me your card, I will also give you another free mini profile that's based on the DISC. So share that with me, and I'll share something with you. So here's what I'm going to ask you to do. Normally I have you move around, but we don't have the time for that. So I'm going to ask you to think about, do you tend to be more fast-paced, active, and spontaneous, or do you tend to be more moderately paced and thoughtful? Think before you speak as opposed to thinking as you speak. Mentally make that decision. Got it? Now, I know some of you, I can read your minds, you're going, I'm on them both. I know. But for the purposes of today, I'm going to ask you to just choose one. Got that? Okay. Now, I want to ask you to make another decision. Do you tend to be more skeptical, questioning, and task-oriented? Okay? Or do you tend to be more accepting and more people-oriented? Okay? Now again, I'm seeing it, some of you looking at me like, okay, I'm both. I know, okay? But for the purposes of today, can I get you to make a decision? Okay, got it? Okay, if you are more active and outgoing and more questioning, I want you somewhere on your piece of paper to put a D, and that's going to stand for dominance. Okay? Okay, if you're more active, outgoing, and questioning and skeptical, I'm going to ask you to put a D. If you are more active, outgoing, and accepting, I want you to put an I on your paper. Got that? And again, some of you are going, I know, I'm both. And when you do the real profile, we know you're more than one. And it comes out. And when we do the profile with organizations, you get to know exactly where you are in that circle. But this is just a taste. Okay, if you tend to be more accepting and thoughtful, okay, and moderately paced, I want you to put an S on your paper. Okay, I'm getting a little worried. Some of you have written 3 letters. Pick one, okay? And last but not least, if you tend to be more moderately paced and questioning, a little bit skeptical, will you please put a C on your paper? Okay? So ideally, you have one of 4 letters written on your paper, D, I, S, and C. Got it? Okay. So now, let's get a sense of who you are. Let me get a sense. How many of you wrote D on your paper? Okay, we're going to talk about you first, because if not, you're going to get impatient and walk out. All right? So let's talk about our high Ds. Ds, let me give you some words that describe you. Ds, you tend to be dominant. And what I mean by that is you want to be in control, particularly of yourselves. I've oftentimes said to a high D, tell me about your decision making. And they go, I don't care if I make a wrong decision, I want to be the one to make it. Okay, so Ds, you want to be in control. Ds, you tend to be direct. And what I mean by that, you hate it when people go all around giving you lots of information and a little voice inside your head is going, can we get to the bottom line? Can we get to the bottom line? Okay, what do you really want? What do you really want? True? Okay, Ds? So you tend to be direct. Ds, you tend to be decisive. And what I mean by that is you want to just make a decision. Nothing frustrates you more than when you go to a meeting and they talk and they talk and they talk, and the only thing they decide is to have another meeting. Anybody ever been to one of those? Okay. So you want people to make a decision, and you say, okay, let's make a decision. If we have to change it later, we'll change it. Right, Ds? Okay. And Ds, you tend to be daring. You're our risk takers. You are the ones that say, okay, if it's not broken, let's break it. Okay? I oftentimes say you're the ones that make hamburgers out of sacred cows. Okay? And what I mean by that, you want to try something new. You want to try something different. You get bored easily, right, Ds? Okay. So you are daring. Let me give you a quote for the high Ds, which comes from Wayne Gretzky, who says, you'll miss 100% of the shots you don't take. You've been known to say, let's just try it. If it doesn't work, we'll try something else. That work? There. Okay, let's talk about our high Is. Eyes. Can I see who you are? Okay, the rest of us, will you please give them a round of applause? Okay, they love recognition. Okay? Come on there. True Eyes? Okay, so Eyes. You tend to be good at influencing others. You're our people, and you are wonderful at influencing others. Eyes. You like to influence others, and the way you do it is you talk them into it. So the word I like to use is you're interactive. Okay, you're the ones that have been talking to me the whole time I've been up here. And I love that about the high Is. You tend to be very interactive. Eyes, you are very including. And what I mean by that, you invite people to be part of your group. And, okay, can we talk? You also like to be included. Okay, let me see Eyes. Let me see you again. Okay, the rest of you, when you see these people out in the hallway there, would you please talk to them? They want to be included. They want to make it happen. Does that work, Eyes? And I's, of all the 4 types, you are the most intuitive about people. You know when you walk into a room, is there tension in the room? Is it a happy room? So again, just intuitively, you know about people. You are wonderful with people. Let me give you the quote for the high I's, which is from Mark Twain also, who said, "There is nothing so annoying as to have 2 people go right on talking when I'm interrupting." True I's, again, that need to be included. I's. Now, let's go to our S's. S's. Let me see our S's in the room. Okay, S's. You're our steady people. You're our energizer bunnies. You keep going and going and going. S's. You like security. You're not against change, but you want planned change. S's. You tend to be supportive. You hate to bother people to do things. S's. Is it true to say that you oftentimes say it's just easier to do it myself? Does that fit, S's? Yeah, so you tend to be supportive. And S's, you are systematic. You create systems that anybody can follow. Now, usually at this point, my C's, okay, in their head are going, wait a minute, I create systems, and you do C's, but you create systems that you can follow, okay? While you're here, if someone wants to find something on your desk, they may or may not be able to find it. With an S, we know exactly where it is, and we can do it intuitively. By the way, C's. If you go to a C's desk and you look for something, they will know that you've been there. Right, C's? Exactly. Let me give you a quote for the high S's, which is, "It's a lot easier to prevent fires than to fight them because you hate confrontation." So now let's talk about our C's. C's, can I see who you are? Okay, C's. I talk about you last, because you want to hear what I say about the others before you reveal anything, okay? C's, you tend to be conscientious. If it's worth doing it right the first time. Right. C's, you tend to be cautious. You ask a lot of questions. You're our skeptical ones. C's, you're our careful checkers. You will notice if there's a typo, okay, and it will bother you. You go into hotel rooms and straighten out pictures, okay, as you make it work. And C's, you tend to be compliant to the rules, especially if you help make the rules. I often say S's, you wrote the rules. C's, you quote the rules. And what I mean by that, you've been known to say things like, according to chapter 2, page 3, the second paragraph, it says. By the way, D's, you just see rules as suggestions, okay? And someday you're going to read that policy manual, I'm convinced, as we make that happen. On that, when we talk about C's, let me give you a quote, which is a definition of diplomacy. A C's definition of diplomacy is thinking twice before saying nothing. You think and then you talk. Different from I's, who say, let me think as I talk, as we start to do it. When we talk about building a team, let's talk about the ideal 4-person team. We need our D's, you generate the ideas. We need our I's, you promote the ideas, and you get people excited about them. We need our S's, you follow through with the ideas and make them reality. And we need our C's, because you make sure that everything is right and complete, and you watch out for all those details. You are known to say the devil's in those details, and you make it work. So do we need all 4 types? Absolutely. On there. When we talk about the disc, I want to say we've just given you a little bit of a taste of it. Again, if you will give me your card later, we'll give you yet another taste of disc. I'll send you a link so that you can take a baby profile and make that work as well. We don't have a lot of time, so let me close with a quote from Winston Churchill, who said, "This is not the end. It is not the beginning of the end. It is perhaps the end of the beginning." Thank you so much for being here this morning. I know you're just going to enjoy all the rest of the speakers as well. Please, if there's any questions that you have afterwards, we'll be at the speakers table. Again, give me your card at that point. And thank you so much for being part of today. And go forth and do good things. Thank you.